Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Credential Up Houston. My name is Margaret Ford Fisher. Our topic today is education in the 21st century, a conversation with Houston Community College Chancellor, Dr. Cesar Maldonado. In part one of this two-part series, Chancellor Maldonado will share with us the many ways that technology and so much more is influencing global initiatives in education, at home and abroad. But first, let's take a look at the YouTube video that speaks to our present and future realities that say that 21st century education is not just about technology or skills for the global economy. 21st century education is also about so many other things. So let's watch. Thank you for watching the video and welcome back to Credential Up Houston. We're having a conversation with Dr. Cesar Maldonado, Chancellor of the Houston Community College, about education in the 21st century, a global perspective. So we thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Maldonado.
Thank you for having me.
You're certainly welcome. And of course, a lot of the supporters wanted to come to be on the show today as guests. But we have members of the T100 group who are here as well, and they wanted to be here to support you, so we're delighted about that, and we welcome our studio audience.
I give them my welcome as well.
Great. So we just saw this YouTube video about education in the 21st century. What are your takeaways from that?
Well, you know, the subject of this video has been around for a while, and there's been a year-over-year build up to the point of where we tip over to where these things that are being predicted are going to start to happen. We're not quite there yet, but because of intervening factors such as the longest economic growth in the history of our country, started in 2009, and if we reach it, if it remains in place till June of 2019, it'll be historic and the longest one, and that is impacting some of the creativity that's being applied to jobs just because of the economic needs of the throughput of our country and in fact the globe. We're at a place where we can no longer look at reversing the global economy. We are intertwined with the economies of all the other great countries in the world, and even small countries have an impact, as we learned a few years ago what Greece was doing and some of their economic challenges. But having said that, the educational system is leveling the playing field. And we do know that there are population growths in China and in India that are going to be impacting the competitiveness of our country. We have been a champion of productivity through use of technology for well over a century, and maybe even two. So when we look at the opportunities that we have to succeed and remain as an economic powerhouse globally, we have the people to do it, we have the academic leaders and instructors to do it, we have the technology to do it. It's going to be different. Education is no longer going to be a 4-year, in fact, perhaps not even a 2-year trek in order to be able to get knowledge to apply into a meaningful career.
You know, you raise very, very good points. And in fact, as we think about the 21st century and all of the changes that you're referencing, teaching and learning will be different as well, quite different from what we experienced in the 20th century.
It's very different. And the way we connect with our students, where our students are in their careers and their maturity, what the age groups are shifting in terms of the population that our college is focused on in terms of the highest number of our students' age groups. So I think the delivery methods, the speed at which we deliver, you know, the critical thinking is still part of every day, and it's still part of successful careers. It's being able to take what you've learned in one area of experience and education and apply it to another. I think we're going to start seeing a need, and in fact already have, for more compressed certifications that aren't really built on a current program. And we're starting to see requests from some high school students saying, I don't really want a degree from Houston Community College. I want a skill set. I want to learn how to code. I want to learn how to cost my time out. I want to know how to bill someone for my time. And then I want to know how to use some creativity tools, like some of the Adobe creativity tools. So we're starting to see that right now, where students are telling us, we want to try this, and if what we want to do doesn't succeed, well, when I'm in my late 20s, I'll come back and go the more traditional route. So I think we're seeing some of what the high-tech leaders in Silicon Valley saw 25 or 30 years ago.
You know, this is so important because we have a number of residents of communities, for example, who are not as savvy with technology as others. So this presents a challenge as well. So we're going to talk about what you said, Dr. Maldonado, with respect to creativity, critical thinking, innovation in the next segment when we talk about maintaining a competitive advantage. So please, stay with us.
HCC. So many reasons, so little tuition. Register today at hccs.edu/now.
I've seen people's lives change just by attending a class at HCC.
Some of them might not have the financial means to go to a four-year university. That doesn't make them any less quote-unquote smart than the kids who go to a four-year school.
HCC is easy to get to. It's easy to apply and easy to become a part of.
It gave me so much confidence.
Once you finish your 2 years there, you can transition into a four-year university or go into the workforce.
It's affordable, it's accessible, it changes lives.
Welcome back to Credential Up Houston. We're having a conversation today with the Chancellor of the Houston Community College, Dr. Cesar Maldonado, and we're talking about education in the 21st century. One of the areas that we want to touch on during this segment is how America maintains a competitive advantage. But before we go there, Dr. Maldonado, we want to talk about economic growth. So tell us about the economic growth and how we prepare for that, and how you see our nation and our city and state being challenged to some degree.
Well, I think the economic vibrancy can lure us into complacency. We all know the statistic and the predictor of by 2020, 65% of the jobs are going to require some form of post-secondary education. 2020 is right now. It's happening in a year. Yet we're not seeing that college-going culture in most of the urban regions in our country. And the reason for that, and there's a lot of economists looking at this, particularly a group out of the Federal Reserve Bank out of St. Louis, is observing that college graduates have a 2.5% unemployment. High school graduates over the last 10 years have dropped in unemployment from 11% to 3.5%. High school dropouts were at 15% unemployment in 2010 and now are at about a 5% unemployment. Those are tremendous drops in unemployment rates for the underskilled workers. And what's happening is the economy is so vibrant that employers are hiring students that are underqualified, so those candidates are overemployed. And I'm talking to leaders at Federal Express, at Walmart, and they're sharing this with me, so what they're saying aligns with what the Reserve Bank's work is showing us. When the economy slows down, those overemployed workers are going to be in trouble. And so part of the role of HCC is to help soften that impact, is to reach out to where the students are. The traditional student coming to one of our campuses during our normal hours really is a model that is going to begin to shrink, and the expansion is going to be in models where we deliver services to corporate entities. And they'll be the traditional 4-credit courses that deal with some of the fundamentals as well as with technology. But the delivery is going to change, and that's impacted by the economy.
Certainly it is. And the question is, as we look at being lured into a state of complacency, that becomes problematic because they don't hear the other messages about the challenges of the future with respect to upskilling and learning how to move into another skill set, whether it's technology or some other area where they can be employed.
That's true, and that is a challenge for us as well as for the student. You know, we're doing a lot of, we have a lot of activities that connect us with students, both in high school and in the 25 to 35 age group. Yet here in one of the largest singly accredited urban colleges in the country, we're having to struggle with enrollment. So in looking at why is that happening, you look to the unemployment rates and we know where those students are. They're working.
Sure.
And the challenge for us is to be able to connect with them so when there's a downturn, we can shift their skills into different industries. So we'll take advantage of they're working now. We can deliver, their employer is supporting their education, and we can really get ahead of some of the downside of the economy downturn.
You know, it seems that the employers, to some degree, can help with this initiative to awaken the sensitivity of their employees to the need to get an additional education, to upskill. And I know that the Houston Community College and other community colleges as well are working closely with business and industry. There are advisory committees. So how do we scale this up so that that message is really clear?
So one of the differentiators in educational success in terms of institutions, I believe, is the ability to facilitate communication between our stakeholders. Very focused on improving our communication with students, and we're looking at methods to do that continually. We haven't focused very much on communication with some of the businesses and allowing them to build their curriculum and the certificates that they value. We're looking at national credentialing, which is important, but some of our employers regionally are more concerned about how they do things in their shops and in their businesses versus how a national association might dictate. So in allowing those employers to communicate with us through portals, we'll be able to have a quicker response for them.
Well, that is going to make a significant difference, and one of the areas that we want to touch on as well is illiteracy, and how there are persons within the workforce currently who are basically functionally illiterate. And how do we now educate that population so that they also can have the quality of life to take care of themselves, their families, and to prosper in the 21st century. So we're going to take another break, Dr. Maldonado, and when we come back, we're going to talk about setting the trajectory for success. So please stay with us.
HCC. So many classes, so little tuition. Register today at hccs.edu/now.
I learned how to cook from my grandmother in the mountains of Oaxaca. Every time I need some comfort, I just remember what she told me. HCC definitely was a turning point in my life. What those wonderful teachers and instructors taught me is priceless. I have won many awards and worked in many restaurants. HCC was the window which opened the opportunity for me. For this wonderful city, they have given me so much. I will thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Welcome back to Credential Up Houston. Our focus today is on education in the 21st century. Our guest is the Chancellor of the Houston Community College, Dr. Cesar Maldonado. Dr. Maldonado, welcome again. This conversation is one that will obviously inspire persons to go back to college to get an education, and this is something that is obviously needed. In looking at the illiteracy rate, as we look at the global impact, and then we look locally and statewide, globally, according to UNESCO, you're looking at $1 billion plus in the cost of illiteracy. And it goes up to $1 trillion, they said. In the United States, we're looking at, according to the National Adult Literacy Survey, $60 billion a year. That's pretty significant. So with all of the programs that Houston Community College has and all of what you were saying earlier, there are opportunities for students to come in, to get an education, and while education is free in many countries of the world, there are still opportunities here via all of the aid, scholarship, grant, funding. So what are your thoughts about how we move forward, and why is this so significant as we look at the Texas plan of 60 by 30?
Well, thank you for having me. This subject is very important, not only to Houston Community College, but to our state and our country. And the numbers you quote are the same numbers I've heard. They're astronomical in terms of the impact on the community and our economy, in terms of the draw on resources that could be put to use to be an investment in economic growth. Well, I look at the literacy issue as a logistics problem. Challenge. So we've got a pipeline of students coming in through public ed, then they transition to post-secondary, and then we've got students that move in beyond post-secondary but come back or go to work and then come back to education, and they get educated in snippets, one course here and one course there. So we need to look at, I believe, a two-prong approach to addressing it. One is to have tighter partnerships with the public schools, and have a meaningful impact on the last 2 years of a student's time in public ed, but influence their activities in terms of exposure to careers and technology further upstream into the middle schools. And make sure that there not only is career awareness, but that there's a level of career exploration. What do physicians do? What do engineers do? What do professors do? Those are the types of things we need to start exposing them to spark that interest. And no matter what career you're going to, it's going to touch technology. So having that in the pipeline as well. And designing a system that transitions those students to post-secondary, whether it's a community college or a university. That's the longer game. On the short game, we need to look at developing a way to connect to students that are challenged with college readiness or the lack of college readiness, to help them transition into a comfort level for them. And we know that the requirements of reading and writing and critical thinking aren't going to change, and we need a solid foundation for that. But there's also challenges that we face on how to implement what they've learned. So when you look at an education, there's the part where you get exposed to knowledge, and then what do you do with that knowledge? The advent of Google and the internet sometimes hurts us, particularly with fake news, and we don't know what's real anymore. So it's that critical thinking that gets us to what do we do with this data? That's still with us, that's not going to change, and we need to be designing systems on the short term to be able to get those students that are not college ready to a point where they are college ready, and have them take college courses at the same time to boost their confidence, to show them that they can be college material.
And that will make a significant difference. I was reading that for the Chicago public schools, for example, they prepare the students in dual credit so they can go to work or go to the university, which is really a very good strategy as well that HCC is using also. And we're going to talk about some of the global initiatives that will have an impact that are already underway at HCC to serve the community. So hats off to you for that. And we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with the audience and Brittany.
HCC. So many locations. So little tuition. Register today at hccs.edu/now.
We have academic programs that help students get from high school into a university, and the data is very clear that students that take the path of a community college finish in far higher numbers than students that start straight into a university experience. Our students can achieve a baccalaureate degree in multiple fields from the universities in the area without ever leaving Houston Community College.
Welcome back to Credential Up Houston. We'll now go to our studio audience and Brittany Pacheco with questions or comments. Brittany?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ford Fisher. I'm here with Dr. Christina Robinson, and she has a comment she'd like to share.
Sure. Well, as you're talking about upskilling students and you're talking about literacy, the Adult Education and Literacy Department this year launched Career for You Academy. And really what that was to integrate the high school equivalency with the workforce component so the students could come out of adult education with a level 1 certificate. In addition to that, all of our classes are now half online and half on campus, which is a hybrid concept, which will hopefully fast-track these students and make them more literate at the same time, providing them that workforce opportunity.
Dr. Maldonado, you have a comment about that. That's really pretty exceptional.
I think that is a move toward a new model that we go to where the student is. The hybrid online component is going to facilitate instruction delivery. We need to go to where, we talked earlier about where the students are in the workforce, we need to go where they are. They're not going to be coming in a traditional way to our buildings on a routine basis. Mm-hmm. So I think that's an exceptional approach to increasing the connectivity, the connection rather with our students to help them through their educational pipeline.
I'm here with Dr. Amy Tan, and she also has a comment with a question for Dr. Maldonado.
So HCC Online, in partnership with English and Communications and the Art and Design faculty, are launching a media literacy program in which students will create a video or a digital logo to indicate or tell the story of their success at HCC. And we hope that the students will be incorporating 21st century skills in this program. And we'd like to know what your thoughts are.
I have two thoughts on it. One is, in order to be innovative in the current century and moving forward, we need to work more laterally across the system. Interdisciplinary programs, partnering across different divisions of the institution is a model that is going to be necessary. So that's one observation. The other is the approach that's being taken with that is an innovative approach that is going to put us in the forefront in connecting the students and bringing those students into a lifelong learning environment that they'll appreciate and embrace.
All right, we have Dr. Timothy Snyder here, who has a question for the Chancellor.
HCC's willingness to embrace and really leverage technology to enhance our classrooms and to grow our online college has really opened up education to a lot of Texans. As emerging technologies like adaptive learning and artificial intelligence really start to permeate education, how can we at HCC leverage those to enhance what we're doing for our students and close the educational gaps in our nation?
The specifics of how to do that I will leave to the experts, but over the past few months, I have been sharing with the leadership team the move to a transformative information technology division. We've got a solid IT group that gives us a tremendous bandwidth and applications, but those are utilities. What we want is to use technology as a unifier, use technology in order to develop a culture of service from IT. And the conversations we're having are right along the lines of what Dr. Snyder talked about, is using an integrative approach to AI and AR and bringing that into the online environment, not only in the classroom. As you know, you and I have talked about how are we going to do this in an online model. And I know that we're all working on that, and I expect to hear our progress, report on our progress shortly.
Well, you know, that is coming because we have members of the team who have been working not only behind the scenes, but in the forefront as well, to gather information, to get the technology in place, thanks to you and the funding model, to move us in that direction. In fact, next week we're going to have a meeting with Dean Otamishi and other members of the team to pursue that. So we are right in step with what your expectations are, Dr. Maldonado.
And this is something that's existential. If we don't do it, we'll be fine for 10 years. That when that tipping point hits, those of us that aren't looking at this are going to really just fall by the wayside. Because when that model changes and the delivery includes AI, AR, VR, those that are looking at it right now are going to survive. And that's my opinion. That's
absolutely right. And I was reading an article just the other day that made reference to Microsoft and Intel and the amount of money that they are investing in AR, VR, mixed reality as well, that anybody who's interested in the stock market should invest now. So that's interesting. So Dr. Maldonado, as we draw our conversation to a close on this segment, please tell us what recommendations you make. Certainly you just made one with respect to the AR, VR, and mixed reality.
Well, I think one is the connection with the students. No matter what technology does, we know that connecting with students is in a way a personality issue that technology can assist us with. There's an AI expert out of China that was interviewed recently about AI and when it takes over, and his response was, AI doesn't have a soul. Humans will always be part. So that connecting with students, bringing in the things that we've been talked about, great questions that were asked and comments, I think things are coming together here at HCC.
You're absolutely right, and thank you so much for your leadership. It's very exciting to be a part of this 21st century initiative to serve the community. Dr. Maldonado, thank you so very, very much for all that you do and for being on our program today. The program was very, very informative, and we thank you also in the studio audience and those of you who are viewing as well. Keep in mind the importance of credentialing up. Thank you so much again. We'll see you next time.